Welcome back to Winning Isn't Easy. When I apply for my ERISA disability benefits, why do they ask me do you do around the house all day? Now, as I've talked about before, when you apply for benefits, you're going to be asked to complete an activity of daily living form that asks lots of questions, including questions about what you do around the house. What does this have to do with your ability to do your own occupation or any occupation? Well, there are two reasons why ERISA disability carriers ask you what you do around the house. And the first reason really goes to your credibility and consistency and what you're telling your doctor about your functional capabilities. For example, you might have a back problem that you claim prevents you from doing your occupation as a computer programmer. And you tell your doctor that you were doing work for some neighbors who wanted to set up a website. That might be inconsistent physically with what you're claiming you can't do, even if you're only sitting for a short period of time. The second reason is that what you do around the house can give the ERISA disability carrier a clue as to how you organize your life in view of your disability. For example, if you've got back problems, you may have to sit in a recliner. You may have to get up every 15 to 20 minutes and change positions. You may not be able to sit in a car longer than 30 minutes. You might not be able to stand at a kitchen sink for more than 15 minutes or be unable to take the laundry from the laundry room to your bedroom and unload the clothes that have been washed and dried and put them away. You might not be able to take that wet laundry and put it in the dryer. You may have to sit and fold the laundry and take breaks because of your back pain. So all of these kinds of activities are really relevant to your functionality and give the disability carrier a clue as to your credibility. So, you filled out this blasted form. You've tried to tell the truth. You've tried to tell the story about, what you can do and what you can't do. What's the disability carrier plan going to do with those answers? Well, what they're going to do is they're going to get your medical records. And they're going to look at your medical records to see what history you gave to your doctor about your activities. And then they're going to compare that with what you put on the activity of daily living forms. Are they consistent? In fact, are they inconsistent? Is there a suggestion here that the doctor is relying on your complaints, which are exaggerated? Because then they're going to approach the doctor and say, you've said that your patient can, sit for, 15 minutes at a time, but on their activity of daily living form, they said that, they were able to help their neighbor, develop a website and, that requires sitting, and they sat for longer than that 30 minutes. Doctor, do you think that your reliance on the patient's history to you about what they're doing and what they're saying they're doing on the activity of daily living forms is inconsistent? And don't you think you might want to reconsider your opinion about restrictions and limitations? What they're doing here is trying to determine what your restrictions and limitations are, and equate what you can do around the house to the equivalency of what potentially you could do at the workplace. Now, I think that's absolutely crazy, but that's what they do. What you do at the house is something that potentially you can control. You modified your day, you modified your house. Not so at the workplace. So to me, they're not the equivalent, or there isn't any equivalency, but I want you to understand that they're looking at, is this person consistent or inconsistent? Are they exaggerating? Are they not exaggerating? And by the way, is what they're doing around the house consistent with some of the material and substantial duties of their occupations, so that we can equate those duties with the ability to do your own occupation or any occupation. Lastly, they're looking at these activity of daily living forms and your answers to engage in investigation of you, both social media investigation, but potentially surveillance. I will tell you, every case that I have, every case I see, you can be assured that the disability carrier plan is doing social media investigation. Very easy to do. And that's a tool that they will use to try to attack your doctor's opinions about your restrictions and limitations. They will try to attack your credibility based on the inconsistency between what you say to your doctor, what you say on those ADL forms, and what that Facebook post shows, or what's on Twitter, or whatever social media you might be on. They will use it against you. And as the next step in the toolbox, they'll assign surveillance. Again, if they obtain surveillance that indicates you're doing something more than what you said you could do, they're going to take that information to your doctor and ask the doctor to reconsider your restrictions and limitations. That can lead to a claims denial and termination. Ultimately, if you end up in front of a federal judge in a lawsuit, that surveillance, that social media is going to be a tool that is going to be weaponized in your claim. And they're going to be arguing that your answers to what you put on those activity of daily living forms is inconsistent, that in fact you're a fraud and a malingerer. And judge, here's the social media proof, here's the surveillance that backs it up. So you can see that completing those forms accurately and correctly with some degree of detail can make all the difference in your claim. Better yet, having an experienced ERISA disability attorney can make all the difference in how those forms are completed so that there isn't any inconsistency. And that's particularly true once your claim has been denied, because disability carriers plans are not in the business of paying benefits on a long-term basis. So remember, the first tool in that carrier or plan denial toolbox is that activity of daily living forms and the answers that you give. I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of Winning Isn't Easy. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like it. Please leave a review. Please share it with your family or friends. And please consider subscribing to this podcast. That way you'll get notified every time a new episode comes out. Please tune in next week for another insightful episode of Winning Isn't Easy. Thanks.